Good morning. I hope you are doing well. I'm sitting here with my coffee. I hope this sounds okay because the room that I'm in, I keep explaining this, we recently moved and it's kind of echoey in here. So I'm using a black boxy thing to dampen that and hopefully it's okay. Mm, coffee is good. This morning, my husband is taking his boys to register for high school. We recently got custody of his teenage boys. That's why we moved. That's why I'm in a room that really has not been set up because it will be set up last and not sure when that is. Doubles as my office too because I do hashtag work from home, hashtag not multi level marketing. Okie dokie. So today I wanted to talk about um, Candace again, but also her need to break out of the cycle of silence. Because something that I have noticed, if you hear any like weird little noises, that could be Chalupa or Tamale. My dogs are in here with me, and Chalupa just like shook his head, so he has long flappy ears. So you may hear some things, and that's my fur babies. So anywho, something I have noticed when it comes to social media, it's like all of a sudden, Candace was making a lot of posts, and then she just shut up and went private pretty much from what I can tell. Just like all of a sudden it's radio silence. However, Don, on the other hand, is like the front man. You know, he goes through these stages of like where he doesn't post, that all of a sudden, boom, he's putting stuff out there. And he's also the person who is being interviewed and all of that. And I find that just fascinating and a little disturbing because what it makes me think about, and I'm, really pulling from my background in anthropology, is the gender roles, which I've mentioned this before when I was talking about the SDA church and how there's like a rigid structure within it. And it just really makes me think like, what is going on in terms of that household, in terms of the Wells household, that is, in terms of the belief system about, you know, power. And when I say power, I'm thinking of economic power because we know that Dawn works. And from what I can tell, maybe Candace helps out here and there. But for the most part, she's in the quote unquote, like traditional role of stay at home mom. Now, we can all conjecture about, well, how good of a mom is Candace? Is she doing all the things? What is she teaching her children? And quite frankly, I don't know exactly what happens day to day. I do know that the boys are not there, and we do know that Summer has been missing since June 15th. And none of that is good. You know, I would say all of that's a great big huge bucket of suck. If there's some silence, I'm sipping my coffee. I'm really glad that I found some coffee. I thought it was out. That's always a scary thing, is to be out of coffee. I like my coffee in the morning. I don't know about you, but I do. Anyway, I do think about what is the day-to-day life like there? And are there any restrictions, if you will, placed on Candace in terms of what she can do and what she can't do? And also, it makes me wonder about her background, her upbringing. If her mother was in a similar role, what did she see? What did she learn about a family structure, about how to be a mother when she was growing up? Because we all do learn from observing others. If you have children, if your children are in school, teachers may speak to you about this, or maybe you know about it yourself. But I know as a teacher, one of the things that we always talked about, I'm a former classroom teacher, in case you don't know that, um, is basically modeling behavior. So, however you want the children to behave within your classroom, you're going to model that same thing because you want them to pick that up. And so it makes me wonder, what did she see? We have an idea of somewhat about Dawn's upbringing, which it doesn't really sound all that stellar. It sounds like it wasn't really that great, that there were problems there as well. And I'm just conjecturing from what I've heard, from the different interviews. Do I have all of those facts? No, of course not. None of us do. We don't have discovery. We don't have anything really. We're going on. Oops, just knocked my microphone. We're going on, the different interviews that he's done. We're going off of social media posts. We're reading between the lines. We are trying to connect dots to other factors that we may know or we may have an expertise in within our background. And a lot of it is just us, throwing out questions and asking. And because there's got to be answers, because we've got to find out, where is Summer and why is she missing? Why? And someone knows, probably more than one person. They know what happened. So back to what I want to connect this to. The other day, do you ever do this? Just do random weird Google searches, like you're looking up stuff and then you kind of like stumble across something. Well, that's what I did. And I found this document, and there's a link to it in the video description, that it's about, I'm trying to think of a delicate way to say this, because you know how YouTube is and everything. It has to do with the family structure. Maybe I should just share my screen and like show you the title of it. And it was published in the 80s. And I know that's ancient, right? I mean, that's just forever ago. But I think a lot of what is said in this, it's still applicable today. The numbers may be different on some things, but I don't think that any of this really changed drastically. I don't have anything to compare it to, but I thought it would be interesting to check this out. So that's what we're going to do. And I can't sit here all day because I do have that hashtag work thing to do as well. Okay, where am I going to share my screen? Boom, ba-doom, ba-doom. Okay. That's what I want to share. Okay. Oh my gosh. I mean, trying to manipulate this box thing that I have is a pain in the butt, let me tell you. Okay, so this is what I found. And like I said, there is a link to this document in the video description. And it's presented by the Chicago Metropolitan, this network. And this is more of the title, which I'm not going to read because of hashtag YouTube. Anyway, I want to look at part of this with you guys. And I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not going to read through all of it. You are welcome to go get it yourself and check it out. But I wanted to start here about the contributing factors, okay? And I want us to think about, how does this apply to the Wells family? How does it apply to the Rogersville area? The community at large. How well does it apply to the larger community of, Tennessee and then the US? I mean, kind of it branches out. It starts very, narrow and very small and then grows from there. But we really need to think about this in terms of the family structure, what's going on there, and, uncover how that could impact the fact that we have this 5-year-old girl who is missing and has been missing for nearly 60 days. I think today day 59 or day 58, because I get lost in the numbers, honestly. Okay, let me scoot this sucker up a little bit. Okay. So the first bullet point is societal attitudes that condone violence. So I wonder about that. When I read that, I think of both Dawn's and Candus's background. Is anything within what they learned, does it condone violence? Did they learn to be violent when they were growing up? Did they witness it themselves? I wonder about that. I don't know about you, but that's something that has been rattling in my brain, because people don't just all of a sudden, boom, become what they are. There is that whole, nature, nurture sort of thing going on. Okay, the second bullet point, community tolerance of violence or oppression. And I think the word oppression is very important, because I take it back to Candus and her role as a woman within that household if she is oppressed. And does she have a high tolerance for this word right here, whether it is to herself or to others. And then also, Don, does he have a high tolerance of that? Does he view that as something that is in the norm, in the range of normal behavior that's acceptable? Does that make sense? The next point is learned aggression as a means of dealing with stress. Again, was this learned behavior? Where does this stem from? Because we do know that CPS has gone out to the Wells house multiple times. We do know that in October of last year that Candus pressed charges against Dawn, and she was fearful of him, and she was fearful of him for her children. We do know that. Now, how much other things have been going on? Because I've seen things where people have said, like, oh, that Candus was, like, I'll just say, laid her hands on her children, as did Dawn. How much truth there is to that, I don't know. And I don't want to just take what random people say on the internet as fact. Would it surprise me if that happened? No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't, given the things that we do know and the things that we can kind of read between the lines about what's happening within that household. Okay, next, got to take a sip of coffee first. Common stress factors. Okay. All right. I think this one is very important. Geographic and our social isolation of the family. Think about where the Wells home is. It's not exactly in an area where there's neighbors to your left, neighbors to your right. They're very, very, very isolated from the rest of the community upon that little hill. That's a stressor. And Candus, in one of the interviews, said something along the lines, because I'm not going to get the exact words, something about how she keeps to herself and just basically, hangs out with her family, something like that. That made me think, it went ding, 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 ding. Does she have any social connections to other people outside of that little, hill they live on, and her mother? Who's there to provide her any sort of support, emotional support, or anything? Does her mother even supply her with emotional support? I mean, I don't know, but it's stuff that I think about. The next one is unemployment. Now, from what I can tell, from what Don has said, he has been working. And he did say in an interview that they, quote unquote, like, never accepted help, which I am guessing is like food stamps and, just, different organizations and stuff. I'm kind of thinking, well, maybe you should have. Maybe that would be useful for your family if you did accept help. Maybe that way your children would not be living in the conditions that house has been, that what we've seen. Maybe the floor would not just be plywood. I don't know. But I don't know if Dawn has always had steady employment. I do know that that area of Tennessee, there is a high rate of unemployment. I don't know what the exact figure is. I don't remember. I've seen it and I've slept since then. So I don't recall. If you know, let us know. Put it in the chat. And the next one is economic stresses. Well, I would definitely say that's a factor for this family. Because, think about it. If you're trying to care for 4 children and 2 adults, plus you also have grandma there, that's a lot of people. Hey, Anne, how are you doing? That's a lot of people. And I don't know, because of course I have not seen, Don's tax records or anything. I don't know what he's pulling in a year for the type of work that he does with drywall and stuff. And I don't know if he only does drywall, if he does other side hustles, so to speak, or, other things. I don't know. I mean, do you know about that? Because I haven't seen anything about that other than, the drywall type stuff. But we did see him building onto the structure that they live in. It's very hard for me to call it a home. I'm not trying to be mean and tacky, but it just doesn't have it has such a cold feel to me when I look at it, just cold and uninviting. And the next one is medical problems or special needs in the family. I don't know what the medical records, and I'm sure you don't either, of what the children are. I know there has been conjecture about Summer, about being nonverbal and potentially delayed in her development. And we don't have a lot to go on with that. But if that is the case, that would be a stressor. That would definitely be something difficult to deal with. But it also, I think, would go back to this next point, and that is inadequate parenting skills. So even if there is some sort of special need that Summer had because she was delayed, were Dawn, were Candace prepared to be able to deal with that? And given the fact that they did not accept help from the outside, from other agencies or anything, did they have the skills? Did they have the awareness? Did they have anything to go by at all? And I kind of suspect a big fat NO on that because it just doesn't look like it to me when I look at everything that we have seen. Okay, next point. Rigid family structure and or sex roles that allow for the misuse of power, parents over children, husbands over wives. And this, I think, is very, very, very important. Karen says there are so many contributing factors here for dysfunctional dynamic prayers for Summer and her brothers. Yeah, there are so many factors. And I think Karen and everyone else, that's why so many of us are drawn to this particular case because of the multitude of factors, because it's not just one thing. There's so much going on. And I think it can very much be a just like how I've covered the Shanann Watt case from the multi-level marketing perspective. I mean, I see Shanann's story as, that teachable moment. We can learn from it. What can we learn from the dynamics of this family so that we can recognize it with others? I think there's a lot to learn here. Anyway, but it does make me think about, again, I have talked about the gender roles. So, sex roles, gender roles, that's really what we're going for, the same basic thing here, just different language. It makes me think of that again. I mean, what is Candace, quote unquote, allowed to do? And I put allow in it just because from what I can tell is Don is very controlling. Look at him, he's controlling the narrative all over the place. I mean, that dude is out there with a different bat every single day almost and taking a swing and, redirecting everything, and it appears, in my opinion, as if he thinks he's like the smartest man in the room, so to speak. And I'm kind of going, I don't think so. Really don't think so. I'm very concerned about what he learned, growing up. It really concerns me. I think about, other cases of other people that we know about, and none of it's good, guys. I mean, there's just nothing within this that's like, oh, yeah, that's okay. That's doable. So I definitely think that there is some sort of misuse of power here. And one of the things I think about, and I mentioned it in my last live stream, my stepfather was, I'll just say, less than kind. And you can just fill in the blank with, the type of person that he was. And I think about how he controlled my mom and cut her off from people and didn't allow her to work. And I kind of wonder that about Dawn. Did he just not allow Candace to work and she was just placed into this role? Now, I'm not saying that, Candace is, a saint or anything, that, she's just this angel, or not at all. Because, we're really just going off of what we can observe from social media, what we can observe from the various interviews that we've seen, from the prayer vigils. I mean, we don't have all that much to go on, but yet we do have so much as compared to other cases, especially with Dawn continuing to chatter, chatter, chatter. Okay, this next one I think is very, very important. Lack of behavioral control due to alcohol, drug abuse. And it's already been noted that within this family, there is substance abuse going on. If you think about Candace's posts, I mean, it's very evident that, she drank and smoked pot. It's kind of like all over the place. And even the day that Summer went missing, she, according to her, bought one twisted tea. And I find that so odd. I don't know about where you live. This goes back years ago, okay? I mean, years and years ago. It used to be a thing, and maybe people still do this, but at gas stations, they would sell like tall boys, single beers here, and people would like literally drink and drive on their way home, from work and stuff. And so it kind of reminds me of that in a way that you're just getting one for the road. But it seems a bit odd that during the middle of the day that you're getting just one twisted tea. And then she's saying it was for her mother. So if you got it for grandma, but then grandma didn't drink, I mean, that whole thing, that doesn't make any sense to me. It just seems like, what are you saying? That just seems very, very bizarre. Okay, let's look at this. Okay, so this is the Illinois this act, which defines this word and these two words: harassment, intimidation of a dependent, interference with personal liberty, or willful deprivation, but does not include reasonable direction of a minor child by a parent. Family members' response to this word, because I don't know if YouTube likes that word or not: deny its existence, minimize its extent, hope and or believe it will not happen again. Response caused by fear, guilt, shame, or embarrassment, despair. Now, I kind of wonder about all of that. Is Candus denying that it's happening to her? Is she denying that it has happened to her children? Who all is in denial? Do people in the church, did they recognize things but then denied the existence that this was actually happening, or somehow minimize what was going on? I mean, think about if you've seen the videos of little Summer, excuse me, going up to, Robin in the church, and, Robin's giving her all kinds of loving and everything. Was it being minimized what was going on within the family structure by the church members? I don't know. I mean, I am throwing out questions. I'm not saying I had answers. These are just things to think about. What was going on? Because there is a case, the Kitty Genovese case. I don't know if you're familiar with this or not, but I remember it when I was an undergraduate studying sociology. And this happened in New York City. And I may not get the case exactly right because it's been a minute since, I read about it, since I discussed it, in class way long ago when I was an undergrad. Anyway, within this case, people in a particular neighborhood, they heard screams of a woman. A lot of people did. I think it was during the summer, and like people's windows are open and stuff. So they're hearing these screams and pleas for help. No one acted. And if memory serves, this is the bystander effect. And I kind of wonder if that was going on here. And Kitty ended up she's no longer with us. I'll just put it that way. Lost her life. And the whole bystander effect that people are kind of like, someone else is going to respond. I don't need to get involved because somebody else is going to deal with it. So I kind of wonder that same thing, if that went on of anyone that had interaction with this family, if there was that feeling of, I don't want to get involved. Somebody else is going to deal with it. Somebody else can do it. It's not for me. Does that make sense? I wonder about that. And then I wonder, these 4 bullet points under here: the fear, guilt, shame, or embarrassment, despair. What is going on with those feelings? Because perhaps, Candus within that household was thinking, oh, it's not going to happen again to her or to Summer or to the boys. And if you live in a structure, and I did, where there's a lot of control that, one person has over the rest of the people, There's a lot of fear. And for myself personally, when I was growing up, when I would hear, "Hey Barton, how are you doing?" When I when I was growing up, I would hear my stepfather's car come home and I'd hear the door. I would hightail it upstairs and hide because I didn't want to be around him because I was afraid. Were the children fearful like that when they heard Dawn come home? You know, were they? How much shame and embarrassment is associated with all of this? And I think about Candus that when you live in this type of story, there is despair, especially if you feel like you can't get out. And if you've been convinced that you have no talents, you have nothing, you're just going to, have to kind of like suck it up, buttercup, and like you've got the best world right now because I'm taking care of you. If any of that kind of nonsense is going on, that wears on you as an individual. Okay, let's look at the next types. And I'm not going to be able to say all of these words because, again, hashtag YouTube, what can I say? But, okay, the physical, any aggression, pushing, this word, I don't want to say it. Just look at, okay, I'm just going to say, let's just, you guys are adults, you can read. So look at all of those different things. And sometimes, like, say something like this, that can happen just very so slightly. So can this. Now, this word right here, I have heard, I don't know its fact, so please do not take that. I am saying this is fact. It's hearsay. And I don't know how much weight it has. If you know, please let me know. Is that I have heard that with BB guns, the boys shot at the dogs. And so that kind of, to me goes back into all of these sorts of things. Are they learning to be violent? And where would they be learning that behavior? Because they're not going to just come up with it on their own, Hey, psychological. Hey, Joylyn, how that is? Oh, is it blurry? Well, that might be your resolution of what it's set. Is anybody else having problems with it blurry? Let me know. And also, Jocelyn, so this document is linked in my description so you can get the document yourself. So if you're having a hard time reading it, that's where it's located, just so you know. Okay, psychological. Attempts to control victim without using physical means include threats. And I don't know if you have ever been in, I'll just say a challenging relationship. This type of using threats is it is such a means of controlling you. It's very psychologically damaging to you. Another one is underneath that is degrading activities, forcing victim to eat off the floor, to commit prostitution, which I don't know if prostitution was going on, but we don't know what kind of things were going on, which makes me think back to the shaving of the head. What is that, a degrading activity? I mean, I have never known a little girl, maybe you have, I haven't. I've never known a little girl that was like all about shaving her head. So I wonder about that. I'm not saying that it happened, but I'm wondering. It just seems odd to me. The next is controlling the victim's activities, eating, sleeping, prohibiting friendships. And that again makes me think about Candus. Was she allowed to have any kind of friendships outside of that little hill she lived on? Denying or controlling access to money. I think that's probably very much of a factor in this entire dynamics, Verbal attacks, name calling, reveling, denial of another's thoughts or needs, destroying others' self-esteem. We've heard that Dawn called Summer the C word. What other words were used towards other people within that household? Were there other words used to make people feel bad about themselves? I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know about you. Intentional intimidation. And examples include speeding through traffic, playing with weapons. Well, we know we've seen pictures of the boys with weapons. So that could be part of it. I don't know about the speeding through traffic, but I think there's probably other things that could be going on, could have gone on. Okay. I didn't want to go over those other two because of the wording in this. And hopefully you can see, if you can't see it, remember this document is linked in the description. The next thing that we're going to look at is property includes attacks on pets. And remember, Summer supposedly had a dog that she called Yucky. And to give you an example of how this is, because this happened to me. We had two little dogs, BB and Putter. And my stepfather just, quote unquote, gave them away. They went to go live in Florida. I don't think they went to go live in Florida. I think they crossed the Rainbow Bridge. I think he put them down because he just decided I wasn't taking care of them. So I wonder, with all those dogs there, which we know that they didn't have the means to care for them. I don't think there's probably any vet records, and there's stories of people dropping off dogs, and according to Don, the dogs come and go. I mean, I don't know how much truth there is to any of that, because I don't know. It just, so much of it to me just doesn't make sense. I mean, that's the bottom line. It doesn't make sense. Destroying prized possessions of the victim for which the victim has some responsibility. Did he do that to Candus? Did Dawn do that to Candus? Did Candus do it to any of her kids? I don't know. But it makes me wonder. Okay, the next thing is the effects on adults. And you need to look at the document that I have linked, because there's things that I don't want to say because of YouTube. But I'm going to jump down to one of the effects is depression. Victim becomes immobilized due to constant fear. Aggressor may lose sense of self-worth or experience guilt over violent acts. Difficulty in obtaining or maintaining employment. And with Candus, we don't know if she ever worked or how much she worked. Was she allowed to work? Emotional abuse and deprivation. Well, I definitely think there was some sort of emotional abuse going on, and maybe still be going on. Maybe that's why we don't hear from her. And I really feel that she has so much to add to this story, that if anybody here knows her and can get her somewhere so that she can fill in the gaps, because if she would just talk to the authorities, I think that we could get a lot of answers and find out where Summer is, why she went missing, and have some resolution. Breakup of the family unit. That is something that I am pretty confident that Candus was afraid of, as she didn't want to break up the family unit, and probably feared whether or not she'd be able to support her boys and Summer if she just left. And some of that, I'm projecting my past on it. I know my mom didn't leave my stepfather for some of the same reason, because she didn't think that she could support herself or me. And Candus had 4 kids that she was concerned about. I mean, I'm guessing she was concerned, even though we know she did a lot of substances and stuff. The next thing is legal litigation, divorce, criminal and or civil suits. Social isolation, fear of violence being disclosed. That social isolation to me just rings so loudly given the location of this home. Escalation of violence, unless someone helps, that goes back into, did people witness anything and then the bystander effect just kick in and they didn't want to get involved? And over time, that violence continued. Reoccurrence of violence behavior with a new partner. Expansion of violence into the community. Alcohol and substance abuse. And we know, again, alcohol and different substances have been used. Effects on children. If you don't have this document, you need it because there's a couple of bullet points here that I am not comfortable reading out loud. But it also includes emotional injuries, depression, aggressive behavior towards others, delinquency, poor school adjustment, educational and peer, modeling behavior, learns victim or aggressor role. And I think that's important because did any of the children learn to be a victim? Did any of them learn to be an aggressor? Runaway episodes. Alcohol and substance abuse, early marriage, expansion of violence into the community, disabling injuries, continuation of violent behavior into their adult relationships and with their own children. And that is highly, highly, highly important, I believe, in this situation with both parents. If they experienced any sort of, I'll just say, unpleasantness within the household they grew up in, they can bring that into the relationships they have with each other, with other adults, and then it's projected onto their own children. Did that happen in the Wells family? Things that make you go, you know? If you're just joining and this is difficult for you to read, because I will say that it's an old document. It is linked in the video description. Why does a spouse stay in a violent situation and not seek help? You know, that's one of the things that you often hear is like, well, why didn't someone just leave? You know, why didn't they just leave? Well, it's not as easy as what you may think, you know. And the first one in situational factors includes economic dependence. Candus has been dependent upon Dawn economically. So that's something to think about. Fear of greater physical danger to themselves if leaving is attempted or of retaliation. And that is also something, you know, I mean, there could be fear like, oh my gosh, if I leave, he'll hunt me down and find me. And what's going to happen then? You know, and I can't think of some of the cases, what they're called, but I know I've seen cases in which things like that have happened. That, you know, the wife leaves and she ends up being stalked by the ex-spouse, or maybe they're still married and she has, you know, picked up and left. But that does happen. Fear of physical danger to the children if leaving is attempted. Did that play into anything ever? Were there threats made against them at all? Fear of emotional damage to children. I would say that emotional damage has already been done if they experienced a lot of unpleasantries within the household. Fear of losing custody of children. I think that is a big one right there because, you know, you think about it, which one of these parents was the better option, you know? I mean, was there a better option? I really don't know because I don't have enough information, but I'm a little doubtful on that. But if I had to pick one, I'd probably say Candace would probably be better because as far as we know, she has not done SA. Um, I'll let you guys read that. Yeah. What you were threatened with was pointed to my head on my 21st birthday. The next is lack of alternative housing or shelters. And, in the Rogersville area, I don't know what the population is there, but I suspect there probably is not a lot of shelters or Section 8 housing. I don't know. I haven't looked that up. If you know, please let us know. But like here in Houston, we've got a bazillion different shelters, and different options. There's a lot of them in the downtown area, but we're also talking about the fourth largest city, in the US. So we should have those. I don't know about smaller communities. The next is lack of job skills. Now, the only thing that I know Candace has experience in, and it's when she was younger, was she was on the carny circuit, right, or a carny circuit. And what other skills she may have, I don't know. Lack of information regarding alternatives. Oh, that is something that I had meant to put up the banner. Hold on. I apologize. I wanted to put this up. Okay. Because there are some resources. I put a link to the resources here in case Candace sees this or anybody that knows Candace. And there's also an organization, Darkness to Light, which does help with child SA. And when you don't know what the resources are, it's kind of hard to access them. And one of the things I wonder, is Candace aware of what kind of resources are in that community? Or was she convinced, we don't need any kind of help. We're just doing our own thing. Was she afraid to reach out to anything for resources? Fear of involvement in legal litigation. Cultural and religious constraints. That's the next. Cultural and religious constraints. That makes me think about, I don't know about you, but it makes me think about, again, the SDA church with having very kind of rigid belief system. Did that play in? Was that used? I mean, because we have seen Dawn weaponize faith. That's just what I'm going to call it. I feel that he weaponizes it and hides behind it. That is my opinion. Yours may be different, and that's okay. But was that used in some way? And the next one is, again, about isolation. And this makes me think again of Candus, because that home is exceptionally isolated. Not only is it in a rural community, it is isolated from the rest of the world. And there are some other things that we can talk about. I can do another, let me know, like, if you'd like me to continue going over this. If you have not accessed the link to this document, it is in the description, but I am going to have to get down on the go-go because, I've got to do that work thing and I've got to pee. Let's just be honest. I got to pee. And, I'm obviously not sitting on the toilet. That would be kind of weird if somebody did a live stream from a toilet, wouldn't it? Anyway, I want to say thank you all very much for being here. I mean, I have more thoughts and opinions about this, but I think it's very important to look at these things of the factors that could be impacting this family. Because I know people are like, got to focus on Summer. Well, to focus on Summer and to find out anything, we've got to look at what's going on behind. What could be, Again, the word impacting, what could be impacting everyone within this family? I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Next week and I just finished rendering. I have a video coming out on Beachbody. If you don't know, if you are new here, I do a lot of multi-level marketing, anti-multi-level marketing videos. So I have a new one coming out next week about another way Beachbody is going to fleece the pockets of the coach network. It's going to cost people even more now. And this week I did have a video go out about Sebastian Greenwood. Sebastian Greenwood was the co-founder of the cryptocurrency multi-level marketing company, One Life, One Coin. And he has been arrested. He's gone through pre-trial. We're just awaiting for other things, but he basically was the mastermind behind, like, let's make this into a multi-level marketing type company from his experience within multi-level marketing companies. Anyway, I'm going to get down the go-go. Like I said, thank you so very much for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for contributing your thoughts. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And remember, you are beautiful and I love you.